You can't sleep again. It's the third night this week you've woken up shivering so hard your teeth chatter, and you're inside a castle. A stone fortress that's supposed to protect you from everything, enemies, weather, danger. But right now, at 3 in the morning, huddled under every blanket you own, you'd trade this castle for a peasant's cottage in a heartbeat. Because at least their fires stay warm. At least their walls don't leak ice into their bones. Your breath comes out in clouds. You can see it in the moonlight streaming through the narrow window, the same window that's supposed to defend against arrows, but right now is just funneling freezing wind directly onto your face. The tapestry on the wall moves, actually moves, billowing like a sail because the draft is that strong. And you paid a fortune for that tapestry. It was supposed to help. It doesn't. Your feet are numb, completely numb. You've got them wrapped in wool, tucked under the heaviest furs, and still, you can't feel your toes. You wiggle them just to make sure they're still there, and the movement sends a shock of cold up your legs that makes you gasp. The stone floor next to your bed might as well be a sheet of ice. You know because you made the mistake of stepping on it barefoot last night, and the cold was so sharp it felt like knives. This is a castle. Your father spent a fortune building it. Your family's wealth, power, prestige, it's all represented by these thick stone walls, these high towers, these grand halls. But none of that matters at 3 in the morning, when you're so cold you're genuinely wondering if you might die before sunrise. And the worst part, the absolute worst part, everyone told you castles were supposed to be better than this, safer, more comfortable, a symbol of status and success. They lied. Or maybe they just never spent a winter night in one. Because right now, shaking under your blankets, listening to the wind howl through stone corridors, you understand something that nobody talks about. Something that gets left out of every romantic story, every proud declaration, every painting of noble castle life. Castles aren't just cold at night. They're brutally, dangerously, miserably freezing. And you're about to find out why there's nothing you can do about it. The candle beside your bed flickers. Go out. And now you're in complete darkness, still shivering, still unable to sleep, wondering how many more hours until dawn, wondering if you'll make it that long, wondering why nobody warned you that living in a castle meant living in a beautiful, prestigious tomb of ice. You built this castle to keep enemies out, but you're learning tonight that you've also built a prison that keeps heat out and cold in, and there's no escape from either. Let me tell you what's happening to you right now, what's happening in your body, in this room, in every freezing corner of this fortress you call home. Stone is the problem. That beautiful, impressive, unbreakable stone. Every wall around you is at least 3 feet thick. Some are 6. You insisted that thicker walls meant better defense, more protection, more prestige. But here's what nobody told you about stone. It holds cold the same way it holds strength. Right now, those walls have absorbed the winter freeze from outside, and they're radiating it into your bedroom like a slow, relentless curse. The colder it gets outside, the colder your walls become inside, and they never warm up. Ever. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're settling in, tell me where you're listening from and what time it is there right now. Now dim the lights and let yourself remain standing here for a moment longer, as the story begins to move. You tried to warm this room. You really did. There's a fireplace, a massive one actually. It takes 4 logs at a time. Logs so big you need a servant to help you lift them. And for the first hour after the fire's lit, you feel almost warm. Almost. The flames crackle and dance, and you can feel heat on your face if you stand close enough. But here's the cruel trick. That heat, it's not staying in your room. It's going straight up the chimney, sucking the warm air with it, pulling it out of your space and into the night sky. And the draft it creates pulls cold air from every crack, gap, and window to replace what's lost. So you're actually colder with a fire than without one sometimes. Isn't that insane? You're burning through your winter wood supply, spending money you could use for anything else, and the fire is making things worse. The servants know this. They've tried to tell you, but you keep ordering more fires because what else are you supposed to do? Freeze in the dark? Your window is open, not because you want it to be, it just is. There's no glass. Glass is so expensive that even you nobility, landed, wealthy, can't afford enough to cover every window in this castle. So instead you have shutters. Wooden shutters that close from the inside, and they help a little, but they don't seal. Wind still gets through, cold still pours in, and if you close them completely, your room is pitch black and airless and somehow even more miserable. You tried oiling the shutters, you tried stuffing cloth in the gaps, you tried everything. It doesn't work. The wind finds a way. It always finds a way. Right now you can hear it whistling through the space between the shutter and the stone frame, a high-pitched whine that's been going for hours. It's driving you mad. But if you get up to adjust it, you'll have to leave your blankets, walk across that ice floor, expose yourself to even more cold, and then climb back into a bed that's now lost all its accumulated warmth. So you don't move. You just lie there, shivering, listening, hating every stone in these walls. The bed is supposed to help. It's a good bed, raised off the floor on a wooden frame because you learned early that sleeping on the floor is a death sentence in winter. The frame keeps you away from the worst of the cold that settles low. You've got a feather mattress, which costs more than a peasant makes in a year. You've got wool blankets, fur coverlets, linen sheets. You've got curtains hanging around the bed frame, heavy fabric that's supposed to trap your body heat and create a warm little cocoon. But your body isn't producing enough heat. You're not moving, you're trying to sleep, and the cold is winning. It's seeping through every layer, finding its way to your skin, stealing warmth faster than you can generate it. Your back is against the mattress, and that part is okay, but your nose is exposed to the air, and it's so cold it hurts. Your hands are tucked under the blankets, but your arms ache from holding them in such an awkward position. You want to stretch out, you can't. Stretching means exposing more surface area to the cold. You hear footsteps in the corridor outside, a night guard making his rounds. You wonder if he's colder than you are. He probably is. At least you have blankets. He has to keep walking, keep moving, stay alert for threats that probably aren't coming, while his body slowly freezes from the inside out. You almost feel sorry for him. Almost. But mostly you're jealous that he gets to move around. Movement creates heat. You're trapped in this bed, trying to sleep, generating nothing. The tapestry on the wall billows again. You watch it in the dim moonlight, this expensive piece of art that was supposed to add insulation, and you realize it's actually making things worse. The draft is getting behind it, creating a gap of moving cold air between the fabric and the stone. It's like having a second invisible window. You make a mental note to have it taken down tomorrow, but you won't. Because without it, the bare stone wall is even colder to look at, even more depressing. At least the tapestry pretends to help. At least it's beautiful, even if it's useless. You think about the great hall downstairs. During the day, it's impressive. High ceilings, long tables, banners hanging from the rafters. But you've been in there at night. It's worse than this bedroom, so much worse. All that empty space, all that volume, and only one fireplace trying to heat it. The cold settles in there like a living thing. People's breath hangs in clouds during winter feasts. You've seen frost on the inside walls. Actual frost, inside your castle. And everyone just pretends it's normal. Because it is normal. This is what castles are. This is what you paid for. Another shiver runs through you, violent enough to make your jaw clench. You wonder how many more hours until dawn. You wonder if you'll get any sleep at all tonight. You wonder if this is sustainable, if you can really live like this for the next 4 months until spring comes, and a dark thought crosses your mind. Maybe this is why so many nobles died young, not from war or disease or childbirth, from the cold, from spending every winter night in these stone refrigerators, their bodies slowly weakening, their resistance slowly crumbling, until one night the cold finally wins. You push the thought away, but it lingers. Because deep down, you know it's possible. You know this castle, this symbol of your power and prestige, might actually be killing you, one freezing night at a time. Morning finally comes. You survived another night, though you're not sure how. Your body aches like you've been beaten. Your head pounds from lack of sleep. Your fingers are stiff and slow as you try to dress yourself, until your servant arrives and sees you struggling and takes over without a word. She's been awake for an hour already. Her hands are warm. Yours are still ice. And that's when you realize something that makes your stomach turn. She knows how to stay warm. You don't. She sleeps in the servants' quarters. You've never been there. Why would you? But you've heard it's cramped, crowded, multiple people sharing small rooms. And suddenly, you understand. Body heat. They're sleeping 3, 4, sometimes 5 to a room, sharing blankets, sharing warmth. It's not prestigious. It's not private. It's definitely not noble, but it works. They're warmer than you are in your grand bedroom with your expensive bed and your useless tapestries. You almost ask her about it, how she stays warm, what her room is like, but you don't, because that would be admitting weakness, admitting that the peasants have figured out something you haven't, admitting that your wealth and status haven't actually bought you comfort. So you stay silent while she helps you into layers of clothing, linen shirt, wool tunic, another wool layer, leather jerkin, and finally your outer robe. You're wearing more clothes right now than most people own, and you're still cold. She's not cold, you can tell. Her cheeks have color. Her movements are quick and efficient, not slow and stiff like yours. She slept better than you did, in a smaller room with less privacy, but better. And that knowledge sits in your chest like a stone. Breakfast doesn't help. The food is cold by the time it reaches you. The kitchen is 3 corridors and 2 staircases away from the great hall where you eat. The servants carry hot food through freezing passageways, and by the time it arrives, the porridge has a skin on it, the bread is lukewarm, and the meat has congealed fat on the surface. You eat it anyway because you need the calories. You need fuel to generate body heat. But it's joyless. Even eating is miserable in this castle. You watch your father eat. He's been living in castles his whole life. He doesn't complain about the cold. He doesn't even seem to notice it. But you notice that he's wearing 3 layers plus a fur-lined cloak at breakfast inside, and his hands shake slightly when he lifts his cup. That's not age, that's cold. He's just learned to hide it better than you have. He's learned to pretend this is fine, normal, acceptable, and you're supposed to learn the same thing. But you don't want to accept it. You want solutions. So after breakfast, you corner the castle steward, the man who actually runs this place, who knows every stone and corridor and problem. You ask him directly, why is this castle so cold? What can we do about it? He looks at you with something like pity, and then he tells you the truth. Nothing. There's nothing you can do. The castle is built from stone because stone is defensible. Wood burns, wood rots, wood breaks during sieges. Stone endures. But stone is also thermally conductive. It equalizes temperature. Outside cold becomes inside cold. That's just physics. That's just reality. You could burn more fires, he says, but you're already burning fires in every occupied room, and it's consuming wood faster than your foresters can supply it. You're going to run out before winter ends if you're not careful. And buying wood costs money. Money you need for other things, like food, like paying soldiers, like maintaining this massive, expensive, freezing fortress. You could add more tapestries, more wall hangings, but you already have them and they don't really work because the drafts just go around them. You could stuff more cloth in the window gaps. You already do. It helps for a day, maybe 2. Then the cloth gets damp from condensation and actually makes things colder. You could close off the wings of the castle, concentrating everyone in fewer rooms. Some nobles do that, but it feels like defeat, like admitting the castle is too big, too ambitious, too much for you to handle. The steward doesn't say any of this with judgment. He's just being honest. He's lived in castles his whole career. He knows, and he's learned something you're just discovering. Castles aren't built for comfort. They're built for survival, and sometimes surviving means being miserable. You ask about the peasants, their cottages. Are they warmer? He nods. Much warmer. Small spaces heat efficiently. Thatched roofs insulate better than stone. A single central fire can warm an entire cottage because there's not much space to warm. Families sleep together in lofts above the animals, sharing heat with livestock. It's not glamorous, it smells, it's crowded and poor and nothing you'd ever want. But yes, they're warmer. You hate hearing this. You hate that your massive investment in stone and height and impressive architecture has left you colder than the people who work your fields. You hate that wealth hasn't solved this problem, that power hasn't solved it, that nothing solves it except accepting discomfort as the price of safety. The steward sees your frustration. He tells you about other nobles, how they handle it. Some flee to their smaller manor houses in winter, leaving skeleton crews in the castles. Some travel constantly, moving from property to property, never staying anywhere long enough to feel the full misery. Some just drink heavily. Alcohol creates an illusion of warmth, and if you're drunk enough, you don't care as much about being cold. You don't like any of these options, but you're starting to understand that these are your options. There's no secret solution, no trick you haven't thought of. The cold is inherent to castle life. It's the price you pay, and everyone who lives in these stone fortresses knows it, accepts it, and learns to endure it. Or they leave, or they die. Later that day, you walk through the castle. Really walk through it, paying attention, and you start seeing things you'd overlooked before. Ice on the inside of windows is not just thin frost, but actual ice formations. Servants wearing more layers than you'd thought necessary. Dogs clustering near any heat source, piled on top of each other. Guards stamping their feet constantly, blowing into their hands between patrols. Everyone manages the cold in small ways. Everyone is coping. Everyone survived, but nobody is thriving. You pass the chapel, step inside. It's even colder than the rest of the castle because it's barely used in winter. Too cold for prayer, apparently. Too cold for God. The thought would be funny if it wasn't so bleak. You leave quickly, your breath clouding, your fingers already going numb. By evening, you're exhausted, not from work, from the cold. Fighting cold all day is draining in ways you never understood before living here. Your body is constantly working to maintain temperature. Your mind is constantly distracted by discomfort. You can't focus, can't think clearly, can't enjoy anything because the cold is always there, always pulling at your attention, always demanding a response. And tonight, you'll have to do it all over again. Climb into that bed, pull up those blankets, try to sleep while the wind howls and the stones radiate cold, and your body shivers and your mind races with frustration and discomfort. Another night, another battle, another failure to find warmth in this castle you're supposed to call home. It's the fifth night, or maybe the sixth. You've lost count. They blur together now. Long stretches of shivering, brief moments of near sleep, then waking again to cold so intense it feels personal. But tonight is different. Tonight, something's wrong. You can feel it. Your fingers won't move properly. You're trying to pull the blanket higher, tuck it under your chin, but your hands aren't responding the way they should. The movements are slow, clumsy, like your fingers belong to someone else. You try to make a fist. Can't. Not fully. The joints won't cooperate. And a small voice in the back of your mind whispers the word you've been trying not to think. Frostbite. It's not supposed to happen indoors. You're inside a building. You're under blankets. You have shelter. But your extremities are losing the battle against cold, and your body is making choices about what to save and what to sacrifice. Your core stays warm, barely. Your fingers and toes, expendable. Blood is being pulled away from them, conserved for vital organs, and if this continues, if you don't warm up soon, you could lose them. Actually, lost them. Parts of your body are dying and turning black and having to be cut away. Inside your own castle. You sit up. Bad idea. The movement exposes you to the full assault of cold air, and you gasp, actually gasp, like you've been plunged into ice water. But you can't lie here anymore. You need to move, generate heat, save your fingers. You swing your legs out of bed, and your feet hit the stone floor, and the cold is so shocking, so absolute that you cry out. Nobody hears. Nobody comes. You're alone with this. You stand, stumble to the fireplace. It's down to embers. You fell asleep and nobody came to add wood. The fire that was supposed to keep you alive through the night has died to almost nothing. You grab a log from the stack beside the hearth. Your hands barely grip it. You drop it into the embers. Nothing happens. No flames. Just smoke. You need kindling. Need to rebuild, need to do what servants usually do, because right now there's no servant, and if you don't get this fire going, you might actually be in danger. Hours pass. You doze in the chair, jerking awake whenever your head drops forward, immediately checking the fire, adding wood, maintaining your lifeline. Your back aches from the awkward position. Your eyes burn from smoke and exhaustion. But your fingers work. Your toes have feelings. You're winning. Barely, but winning. Dawn comes, gray light through the shutters. You've made it. Another night survived. But as you sit there, watching the morning arrive, you realize something that makes your chest tight with panic. You can't do this every night. You can't stay awake for an entire winter, feeding fires, fighting cold, hovering on the edge of injury. You're already exhausted, already wearing down. It's only been a week, maybe 2. Winter lasts months, months. How many more nights can you survive like this? A servant arrives, sees you in the chair by the fire, sees your face, knows immediately what happened. She doesn't ask questions, just brings warm wine, adds wood to the fire, helps you back to bed now that daylight has made it safer. She tucks extra blankets around you, builds up the fire higher than usual, and quietly, so quietly you almost miss it, she says that she'll check on you during the night from now on. Make sure the fire doesn't die. Make sure you're safe. You want to refuse, want to say you're fine, you can handle it, you don't need help, but you can't, because you do need help. You need someone to watch over you while you sleep, someone to keep death at bay. And that realization that you're vulnerable in your own home, unable to protect yourself from a simple cold, is more humiliating than any defeat in battle. She leaves. You try to sleep, but every time you close your eyes, you feel phantom cold, phantom numbness, phantom fear that your fingers won't work when you wake. The trauma of last night has lodged in your body. You're scared now, actually scared, not of enemies or war or violence, of winter. Of your own castle, of the slow, patient, relentless cold that wants to take pieces of you until there's nothing left. Later that morning, you see other nobles at breakfast. They look tired too, worn down. One man has a bandage on his hand. Chilblains, someone says. Painful, but not serious. A woman has a cough that won't quit, deep and wet and concerning, cold settling in her lungs. Another man just looks gray, exhausted, defeated. Winter is taking its toll on everyone. You're not alone in this, but that doesn't help. That just means everyone is suffering together. Everyone is losing this fight. Your father mentions casually that perhaps the family should winter at the manor house next year. Smaller, warmer, more manageable. Nobody disagrees. The castle will stand empty except for a few guards. This fortress that costs a fortune to build, that represents your family's power and status, will be abandoned every winter because it's uninhabitable, and everyone accepts this as normal, as reasonable, as the only sensible option. You nod along, agree that yes, the manor sounds better, but inside you're burning with frustration. What's the point of this castle if you can't live in it for half the year? What's the point of all this stone and height and impressive architecture if it forces you to flee? You wanted to feel powerful, protected, safe. Instead, you feel trapped, threatened, defeated by simple weather. The cold has won.
You haven't died, haven't lost fingers or toes, haven't succumbed to frostbite or hypothermia or any of the real dangers, but you've lost something else, your illusion of control, your belief that wealth and status protect you from nature, your confidence that this castle is a home rather than a beautiful, impressive, prestigious prison of ice.
And tonight, you'll have to do it again, and tomorrow night, and every night until spring. The cold isn't going anywhere. The stone walls will keep radiating their frozen curse. The wind will keep finding ways in, and you'll keep fighting to survive in a building that was never designed for human comfort, just human defense. And sometimes defense means suffering. Sometimes survival means misery. Sometimes the castle protects your body while slowly destroying your spirit. The nobles who came before you knew this. They lived through these same winters. They shivered in these same rooms. They fought these same losing battles against cold. And they said nothing, warned nobody, let you discover it yourself. Maybe because they were ashamed. Maybe because they hoped you'd find some solution they'd missed. Maybe because misery loves company, and if they had to suffer, you should too. Whatever the reason, they kept the secret. Let you believe that the castles were glorious. Let you build one. Let me move on. Let you find out the hard way that you've trapped yourself in a stone refrigerator that you're too proud to abandon and too powerless to warm. You wonder about the servants again. They're warmer than you tonight. You know they are, sleeping in their crowded quarters, sharing blankets and body heat, making do with less but somehow having more of what actually matters. You used to pity them, their small rooms, their lack of privacy, their humble circumstances. Now you envy them. They've figured out what you're still learning, that survival matters more than status, that warmth matters more than walls, that sometimes having less means suffering less. But you can't join them, can't give up your bedroom and sleep in the servants' quarters, can't abandon your position, your dignity, your role. So you stay here, in this grand, freezing room, maintaining appearances, pretending this is fine, pretending you chose this, pretending that nobility means something when you're this cold, this miserable, this utterly defeated by your own home. The wind picks up outside. You hear it howling around the towers, screaming through the battlements, searching for ways in, and it always finds them. Every gap, every crack, every imperfect seal. The wind is patient and relentless, and it will never stop trying to reach you, never stop trying to freeze you, never stop reminding you that these walls, for all their strength, cannot keep out something as simple as cold air. You pull the blankets tighter, same motion you made that first night, same futile gesture, same hope that maybe this time it'll help. It doesn't. It never does. But you keep trying, because what else is there? Give up? Let the cold win completely? Admit defeat and just stop fighting? You can't do that. Won't do that. So you shiver, and you hope, and you count the hours until dawn, and you tell yourself that tomorrow night might be different, even though you know it won't be. Even though you know this is what winter in a castle means. This is what you signed up for. This is what nobody warned you about. The shocking truth about medieval castles isn't that they were cold at night. It's what everyone knows. Everyone who lived in them, everyone who built them, everyone who inherited them. They all knew. And they kept living in them anyway. Because safety mattered more than comfort. Because prestige mattered more than warmth. Because admitting that castles were uninhabitable would mean admitting that wealth and power couldn't solve every problem, couldn't defeat something as simple as winter, couldn't protect you from the one enemy that didn't care about your walls or your soldiers or your status. And now, you know too. You're part of the secret now, part of the conspiracy of silence. When people ask you about castle life, you'll probably lie too. Say it's wonderful. Say you love it.
Say the stones are beautiful, and the views are magnificent, and the sense of security is worth any price. You won't mention the cold, won't mention the sleepless nights, won't mention the fear of frostbite or the constant battle for warmth or the bone-deep exhaustion of fighting winter inside your own home. Because admitting the truth means admitting you've made a terrible mistake, and you can't do that, can't afford that, can't bear that. So you'll lie, just like they lied to you, just like everyone lies about castles. And the next generation will build their own, move in, discover the cold, and wonder just like you wondered why nobody warned them. Why did nobody tell them the truth? Why nobody said that medieval castles, for all their glory and grandeur, were freezing at night. Dangerously, miserably, relentlessly freezing. And there was nothing anyone could do about it. Your teeth chatter. Again. Still. Always. The sound echoes in your ears, a rhythm you've learned to hate. Click, click, click. Your body's desperate attempt to generate heat through movement. It doesn't work. It never works. But your body keeps trying, keeps fighting, keeps refusing to accept that warmth is impossible. And maybe that's the real shocking truth. Not that castles are cold, but humans are stubborn enough to live in them anyway. Stubborn enough to suffer. Stubborn enough to pretend this is acceptable, normal, fine. I'd love to hear from you. What part of history calls to you? What time period, what civilization, what aspect of daily life from the past would you like to explore together in a future video? Maybe it's medieval Europe, or ancient Rome, or the Viking Age, or somewhere completely different. Drop a comment below with the next topic you want to hear about. I read every single one, and I'll pick randomly from your suggestions to create the next story we share. Your curiosity helps shape these journeys into the past. So please, take a moment to share what draws you, what makes you wonder. I'll be here, ready to research and craft whatever story speaks to you most. The candle flickers. Go out. Just like that first night. Just like it will tomorrow night. And the next. And the next. And you're in darkness again. Cold again. Unable to sleep again. Wondering again why nobody warned you. Knowing that when dawn comes, you'll get up, you'll dress in your layers, you'll pretend everything is fine. You'll maintain the lie, you'll protect the secret. You'll become part of the problem you once wished someone had solved for you. Because that's what castle life does. It doesn't just freeze your body, it freezes your honesty, your willingness to admit weakness, your ability to ask for help or admit defeat, or acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, the peasants in their warm cottages have something you don't, something you need, something you'll never have as long as you stay in this beautiful, impressive, prestigious tomb of stone and ice. You can't sleep. Again. And you're beginning to think you never will.